I very well might be dying. And that's not even an exaggeration here. I'll show you. I'll take my temperature. Because I have a cold. I have a cold. I can't talk and take my temperature. Hold on. Oh my goodness. For the first time all day, I don't have a high fever. That's good. That means I might be able to go to school on Wednesday. But seriously though, everything hurts and I'm dying. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I have a cold and I'm miserable and I have a cough. But honestly, that's not even the worst part of having a cold. The worst part of having a cold with a fever, to me, is missing school. And I know there are a lot of people out there who are like, I love to miss school, I hate going to school. But that's not me. I know that I'm probably one of the only kids at school who is sad to have sick days. But number one, I really enjoy school. And number two, I hate makeup work because when I get back to school after missing 2 days of school, then I have 2 days worth of notes and homework and classwork that I need to catch up on. It's a whole thing. So before you watch the video, I just wanted to say that number one, my voice sounds weird, and that's because my lungs are dead. Also, I don't sound very energetic, and I kind of sound sleepy, and that's because I am. I'm still sick. I've had this stupid cold for a month now, and I'm still waiting for it to go away. Maybe one day it will go away. We can hope. But yeah, just take this video with a grain of salt and enjoy. So today I thought it would be fun to go over my 2019 reading stats, even though it's already almost February. I don't care, I can be late if I want to be. It's all good. Wait a second. Okay, I just got freaked out. I could have sworn my camera on my laptop turned on. Which, by the way, I'm going to be looking down a lot during this video because I'm using my laptop to look at these stats, but they'll be like right here in this general area is where I will show them. So, I'm using two sources. I'm using Goodreads Year in Reading, and then I'm also using a spreadsheet I made on Google Sheets, which took a long time, and I got kind of sick of entering data by, like, after 100 books that I entered, I was like, I am so sick of this, but it was worth it, because I love data, and I love seeing numbers and graphs. I find it so interesting. Okay, so I'm going to start with my year in review on Goodreads. I read 56,348 pages across 159 books, which means, give me a second, I'm doing math. 56, 3, 4, 55, 9. That means, on average, every book I read was 354 pages, which is not true, so that's why averages don't always work. The shortest book I read was Of Mice and Men at 107 pages, which is surprising, because I've read shorter novellas. I guess I didn't this year. And then the longest book I read was the DSM, which is 943 pages. And I read every single page. I love the DSM. I actually read shorter books in general this year than I did last year, because last year the longest book I read was It, which was over 1,000 pages, I believe. The most popular book I read was Of Mice and Men. I read Of Mice and Men for English class. I probably wouldn't have read it for my own pleasure or entertainment, because generally, in my opinion, I don't enjoy historical fiction, which is almost always, classics are almost always historical fiction, and I don't generally enjoy historical fiction. Oh boy. The least popular book I read was Art Models Jessie 222. So let me explain why I read this. And I didn't even really read it. I marked it as read on Goodreads. So basically, I was on Amazon, I don't remember why, and they recommended this book to me. And I clicked it because I was curious. And I noticed the title said Art Models, or on the cover it said, for drawing reference, and I found that very funny, because I know I wouldn't read a book like that for a drawing reference, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who would not just read that for drawing reference, and so I made a joke about it on a review. I was like, haha, drawing reference, sure. So that's why that's on there. My average rating for 2019 was 3.9 stars, so about 4 stars, which makes sense. I generally rate books 4 stars. That's almost always the rating I use the most. The highest rated book, oh boy, this is another weird one. The highest rated book I read on Goodreads is Find Momo, a photography book. That is the highest rated because it has barely any reviews and ratings. I also read this as a joke. The joke review I don't remember what it specifically said, but the review was basically me making a joke about Momo, the creepy internet creature thing. My first review of the year is Lie With Me. That's actually not true. I read this book, I think it was in October or November. I think the reason this showed up as my first review is because I didn't have any, I didn't mark the start date and end date, which is why Goodreads just has it marked as read in 2019 rather than the specific dates I read it. And then these are all the books I read. I'm not going to go through them individually, but yep. Oh, seeing these covers takes me back. It was a long year. Then my last review of the year, this one is accurate. I believe it's Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This was I believe this was one of the last books I read in 2019, and it was also the last 2019 favorite I had. It was a really fun way to end the year. And that is my year in review on Goodreads. And now I'm going to go to my spreadsheet on Google Sheets. So for a spreadsheet, I made my own. I know there's one out there that is made by a collaboration of booktubers and bookstagrammers, but I tried to use that one and it was a little too complicated for me. It's really well made, but it was a bit overwhelming. So as you can see, I entered all my data right here. I have the title, the author, the format, if it was free or bought or from the publisher or from the library, stuff like that. Digital versus physical, who published it, the rating, the genre, the author, gender, any representation, and the age range. So now on to the charts. The first chart I have is format. So as you can see, I read mostly almost 50% advanced reader copies. This is because 2019 was really the year where I started. Ooh, Luna's barking. I wonder what she's barking at. And my sister is yelling at her. This house is chaotic. Anywho, the reason I read mostly advanced reader copies is because 2019 was really the year my blog, Goodreads, and Goodreads really started to get more attention from publishers, and it was also the year I started requesting ARCs directly. The next biggest thing is hardcover and paperback. Those are, just basically the same as advanced reader copies. Mostly publishers sent me those. And then the next biggest is audiobooks, and I'm surprised it's not bigger because I read a lot of audiobooks in 2019. But yeah, I also read a lot of audiobooks because they're easier to get through because I listen to them on 2 times speed or 3 times speed. And then the smallest slice of the format is ebooks because I very, very rarely read ebooks. If I read ebooks, they're most likely I'm reading them on my Kindle, but even that I don't like to do because I just prefer to have a hard copy in my hands. Yeah. The next chart is free versus bought. I have only 4.3% as bought, which is amazing. The rest of it was either free or from the publishers. Free means that either I got it for free because there's this, not really a bookstore, but it's like this establishment where basically people donate books and then other people come in and take them for free. But anywho, and the big slice obviously is from the publisher, which is, give me a second, is that 82? I can't read. I need glasses. 82.3%, which is amazing. I will never not be grateful to the publishers for sending me free books. When I started my blog, it didn't occur to me. I didn't even think that someday big publishers would want me to read their books and for free. It was just, I really love working with publishers. I'm so grateful that I get to read books for free. It's something that I thank God and thank the publishers for all the time. Yeah. So, I cringe every time I watch the part of this video where I'm trying to sound grateful for publishers sending me books, but I just sound cringy and, like, fake. And I didn't mean for it to sound that way. What happened was I was looking at the other graphs while trying to talk, and I'm not good at multitasking, and I'm not good at looking at things and talking at the same time. So let me just say now, I am so grateful to publishers for all the books they send me. Never in a million years did I think that someone would want to send me books for free and have me review them. Every day I have to pinch myself because I get books so often. And I recognize that that is a privilege that not everyone gets to experience. So to any publishers and to any authors and fellow reviewers, thank you guys so much for giving me a voice on this platform and on Goodreads and Instagram and all the platforms I use. I truly appreciate it. Anyway, back to the video. The next pie chart is digital versus physical. As you can see, it is mostly physical at 85% physical, and then the 14.9% digital is audiobooks. There's maybe one or two ebooks in there, but most of the digital will be audiobooks because I listen to them from Libby or Audible. The next one is publishers. Now, this year, or last year, 2019, I did general publishing houses like Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House. But this year, 2020, I'm going to do imprints. So like Berkley and A.A. Knopf, those are all imprints of Penguin Random House. So I'm going to be more specific and go with imprints rather than general publishing houses. But this year, I read mostly from Penguin Random House. I think that's because of all the Berkley titles I read. I really love working with Berkley. They've published some of my favorite books, and I would say that I love like about 80% of the books they send me. The next biggest chunk is Simon & Schuster, which is really surprising. Nope, never mind. I was wrong. Harper Collins is the next biggest chunk, and that one makes more sense. I read a lot of thrillers from Harper Collins. Next biggest chunk is Simon & Schuster, which, again, is surprising. I felt like I didn't read that many books from them, but I suppose I did. I think that would most likely be mostly Atria Books, which is an imprint of Simon & Schuster. The next biggest slice is Hachette Books. I'm surprised this slice isn't bigger, because I read a lot of Jimmy Patterson books, Little Brown books, things like that. And then the next slice is Macmillan. I also feel like, St. Martin's. I read a lot of St. Martin's Press books, and I forget that St. Martin's Press is an imprint of Macmillan. Next is Disney. I read not that many Disney books, but this year I read a lot more than I ever have. Next slice is Other. I don't know. Other is just the really small press books, or the books where I read maybe one book from a publisher. And then Amazon, I read 2 books. That would be Jane Doe, which was a buddy read with Miranda, and then I think that would be Fever King by Victoria Lee. And then the smallest slice is HMH. I was wrong. The 2 small slices that are tied is HMH and independently published books. I don't read that many independently published books, mainly because I don't get that many review requests, but also I tend to prioritize the bigger publishers over the independent publishers. What was I going to say? HMH doesn't send me that many books, and I don't really read that many HMH books. Hopefully I'll be able to change that this year, and I'm hoping to read more indie books this year. Next slice is ratings. So, wow, I'm surprised that the biggest slice is 5-star ratings. I think this was because in the beginning of the year I was a lot more lenient with my 5-star ratings. And towards the end of the year I was a little more strict with what I gave 5 stars. The next biggest slice is 4-star ratings, which I think this year will be a lot bigger because, as I said earlier, 4 stars is usually the most common rating I give. Next is 3 stars, which will probably be smaller this year. I don't really rate many books 3 stars because 3 stars to me is like a general lack of feelings. Like, I didn't love it and I didn't hate it, whereas usually I either love a book or hate a book. Next is 3.5 stars, and then 4.5 stars, 2.5 stars, and then the 1 star, and then the smallest slice is 2 stars, which is surprising because I felt like I rated more books 2 stars. Anywho, on to the next pie chart, which is genre. The biggest genre is mystery thriller, which makes sense. I read a lot of mystery thrillers, then science fiction, fantasy, romance, contemporary, historical fiction, memoir, science, horror, and contemporary. Next slice is author gender. This one is really interesting. I read mostly female at 69.5%, then male 26.2%, and then the smaller slices that are tied at 2.1% are unknown. This is most likely from the DSM or books with that are written like by companies. Like, let's see. Books written by companies would be the AMA Family Medical Guide, the DSM, things like that. Books that are written by multiple people, and then the other small slice, which is duo. So this would be like Christina Lauren books or Liv Constantine. Those authors are duo authors. The next slice is representation. Unfortunately, I didn't read that many books with representation. That's definitely something I want to change this year. 63.1% of the books I read didn't have representation. 12.8% was LGBT, which is great because that's one of my favorite representations. Mental illness is the next biggest slice at 13.5%, another really important representation to me. People of color representation is only 5%. That's something I want to change this year. Get that number to be a lot bigger. Disability, so this usually refers to like physical disabilities, is only at 4.3%, and then the smallest percentage slice is combination. So this would be like a combination of multiple, like so LGBT and mental illness, things like that. And then the last pie chart I have is age range. The biggest age range I read was adult at 59.6%. This makes a lot of sense to me because 2019, I read mostly thrillers, mostly mysteries, and mostly romances. That was basically my entire year. The first half of 2019 was mystery thrillers, and then the second half of 2019 was romances. The next biggest slice is young adult, which is not surprising. Next slice is new adult, which is surprising. I don't read that many new adult. And then the small slice is middle grade, which is not surprising. I don't read that many middle grade books. I should, because I know that there are really good ones out there, but I just don't have that much interest in middle grade books. Yeah, those are my 2019 reading stats. I'm going to do this again next year, so at the end of 2020 or in the beginning of 2021, and it's crazy that we're already almost, well, not almost, but like 2021 isn't so distant in the future, which is crazy. But anyway, next year, in a year or so, I'm going to do this video again with the stats from 2020. In that video, they'll be a lot more specific. This one was a lot more vague because I just entered the stats in quickly, and so it wasn't completely accurate. I'm also going to be adding a lot more stats, like I'm going to do novel length, things like that. Anyway, those are my stats of 2019. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.